In this video, we're going to go ahead and take a look at what Project Lunar actually looks like, and I'm going to show you guys a hands-on demo. This is Steve from Restalgia, and let's get started. Alright, so here we are with Project Lunar right on the boot menu. Now this is just going to be a little bit of a teaser video. I'm not going to make this a really long-winded video, show you guys all the features and everything. When it comes time for the actual tutorial and we're ready for a public launch, I will be sure to go through everything in detail with you guys. But more or less this is it. So you've got your boot menu and you've got access to RetroArch, you've got access to Project Lunar, and you've got access to Emulation Station. Now, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to have to keep in mind with Emulation Station and RetroArch and Project Lunar, but I'm just going to show you guys the basics like I just said. So for this video, I'm just going to show you guys a little bit of Project Lunar and a little bit of Emulation Station. We're going to go ahead and skip RetroArch altogether. RetroArch's been done before, everyone's seen it, we know exactly what it is and how it's supposed to run, so we're just going to skip it altogether. Right away on the main screen, you can see there are three options along the bottom. I should actually say four, but there's three options, A, B, and C. A is to select, B is to enter your settings, and C is to enter your network manager. So if you go into your B settings, this is where you can make adjustments. This is going to give you the option to toggle higher CPU speeds. So that comes stock with it off. You're going to have to turn it on. There's a couple other things, toggling the splash screen on boot, a few other things here for performance. We're not going to get too much into it, but just to show you guys that those options are there in the settings. And then in terms of the network manager, which is the C button, we're going to press it. This is actually pretty slick. If you've got an OTG adapter, and this is the one that I'm referring to, I'll leave it on the screen here. It's got multiple ends that you can pop different things into. This OTG adapter will work with the Wi-Fi adapter that you would have purchased for the PlayStation Classic if you're doing networking for it. If you aren't, you can pick it up. I'll leave links in the description down below. This specific Wi-Fi adapter that I have in the description is one that we know is compatible and it works really well. So in terms of that, this is the way to go. The network manager itself should be able to access all the different networks in the area. So as you can see, when you press the start button, it'll scan and you'll be able to see that there is a bunch of different networks. As you can see, the top one is currently blurred. That's my own personal network. I'm not going to display the name of it. But what you would do is you would actually pick a network. You're going to press the A button to connect to the network, and then you've got the option to just physically type this in. So if you are familiar with the PlayStation Classic, this is a much easier method to get your console connected into the network. And once you do this in the boot menu, your network will be active for all three platforms, whether you're running RetroArch, Emulation Station, or Project Lunar. So that is really nice and handy, and this is really smart. This is actually really cool that you can do this right on console. So we're going to go ahead and back out of here. So now that we're back on the boot menu, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the option to toggle the auto boot. And auto boot just essentially allows you to force the console into a specific application. So if you want the console to turn directly into Project Lunar every single time it turns on and you don't really need this boot menu, you can go ahead and do that by pressing the start button and it'll say auto boot has been set. If you don't want that anymore, you press the start button again and it'll unset that. And of course that's the same for any of the different consoles or the platforms. So you can go ahead and pick whatever one you want and you can set it to auto boot. I personally like the boot menu, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is so that way I have access to this each and every single time that I turn on my console. So now we're just going to go ahead and jump into Project Lunar. We're going to press the A button. And here we are. So as you can see, everything looks more or less the same. There's nothing really different here, except you may have noticed at the very beginning of my list, I actually have a new game in there. It's called The Adventures of Batman and Robin. You guys might be familiar with it. Lots of fun. I've actually gone ahead and added this in, and I am going to show you guys really quickly kind of what that application looks like and what you can expect. Now keep in mind these things are going to be they're very early, so there's going to be some changes even to the way that they look. So I know in my previous video I kind of showed some screenshots. I'm actually going to show you guys it running, and I'm going to load a game onto it in this video so you guys can see what that looks like. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So it's actually going to have the games populate in alphabetical order right into the list of all your other games. And of course, you've got it to display both with the spine art and with the front art, so you actually have both working, and it is functioning properly. So it actually looks and is running really well. So what I'm going to do is really quickly, I'm just going to shoot over to my desktop computer, and I'm going to show you guys quickly what that application looks like and what you need to do to add a game and how simple it is. So we're going to go ahead and switch over to that. Okay, so here we are. As I mentioned, there is a desktop application for Project Lunar. It is really slick. You're going to use this to get it installed. You're going to use this to get the kernel reflashed. You guys are going to use this to back up and to restore your console if you ever need to. It is really slick. It works really well, and honestly, kudos to the developers. They've done an amazing job, so great work on it. So we're going to go ahead and open up the application, and as you can see, we've got a few options. So install and uninstall, you're going to use that to get set up, and then you've got the open the game manager. So we're going to click on open game manager, and it's going to say unable to retrieve information from your console. Is it plugged in? So my Genesis is now plugged directly into my computer. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to give it a second to load, and then I'm going to hit OK. What it's going to do is it's going to connect in, and you got to wait till this information down here actually says that it's connected. Perfect. So now we are connected. It's telling you there's an estimated free space of 8 gigabytes. The reason why it says there's so much is because I have a USB drive plugged into my Genesis as well for additional storage, and I'm also using that for Emulation Station, which I will talk to you guys about in a little bit. So as you can see, I've got a ton of space here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to add one single game, and I'm going to add a game that should have been included in the first place on this list of games that Sega put out. And I can't think of any reason why they couldn't get the licensing for this, because it's been done on pretty much any and every classic system and arcade system that's come out is Mortal Kombat 2. So we're going to go ahead and add that in here. There's a button right on the bottom. It says add new game. It's going to ask us where do we want to get our game from. So in this case, I just need to locate my my folder that I have all of my games in it. And we just need to select a game. So we need to go over to our M section, Mortal Kombat 2. We're going to hit open. It's going to take this information, and what should happen right now is it's going to automatically scrape for the artwork, both the spine and the front cover. It's also going to scrape the description, the copyright, the number of players, the genre, all of those sort of things. And it's going to give you a couple of options. So if it does spit out the wrong thing, perhaps it'll be in one of the other matches that you can select from. Additionally, you're going to have the option to do EU box art, Japan box art, or US box art as well. Now in this case, the scraper is not currently live. It does work, it's just not currently live for what I'm using on this beta version that I've got access to here. So this would all be typically done automatically, but because it's not, we have to load the box art ourselves. Now this is actually really cool, because if you wanted to do custom box art, you can do that right here. I'm just going to go ahead and pull in the standard box art. So I just got to find it. So I've got Mortal Kombat 2 for the Megadrive. There's the box art here, and I'm going to load the spine art as well, which I should have right here. And as you can see, now it matches up, and it's the proper box art for the Megadrive version. Then all you need to do is you can fill this information out. You can say it's 1 to 2 players, and then you just press the add game button. It says, are you sure you want to do that? There's missing information. Of course, I don't have everything here, but yes, I'm going to go ahead and do that for the purposes of this video. And there it is. So we've got Mortal Kombat 2 available. Next, all that's left for us to do is press the sync button. The really cool thing about this is you can load as many games as you want. Ideally, what you would do is you'd load all the games that you want and then press the sync button. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Do you want to sync now? The answer is yes. Perfect. It's saying the sync is complete. Only takes a couple of seconds. We're going to hit OK. We can go ahead and close this out. And now I'm just going to jump back on over to the console so you guys can see that it's synced and that game is now visible. Okay, so here we are back on the boot menu. We're just going to jump right on into Project Lunar just to see whether or not that game has successfully transferred over to our console. And here we are. So we now have our Adventures of Batman and Robin, and we've got our Mortal Kombat 2. Now they did display here not in alphabetical order. It looks like it's being sorted by the release date. So I'm going to go ahead and see if there is a way for me to change that. If it's in alphabetical now, A to Z, that's much better. So you can see I've got Adventures of Batman and Robin, and then if we scroll down to the M section, we're going to have our Mortal Kombat. So obviously I'm not using the right artwork for the North American version, but a lot of you guys in the UK will be familiar with the Megadrive artwork that I've put on there. I personally like the Megadrive artwork a little bit better than the North American artwork. It's a personal preference. It's a little weird, but I do like it that way. So yeah, it does work. I am going to go ahead and load up the game just so you guys can see that it does actually work. Save states are all valid and everything's running properly. So now I've gone ahead and muted the audio just for the purposes of this video, but I can tell you that the audio does work properly and there's no issues here. So I'm going to go ahead and press start. I'm going to load into the main screen here. We're going to go ahead and press start again, and there you go. So you can select your character and it'll go right into a fight. We're going to skip into that, and there it is. So all of the same settings that you would be able to set for the Genesis are going to be available to you. So that is really neat in terms of any of the scan lines or anything like that. That's all available to you. And then of course you also have your save states, so you can select save state 1, 2, 3, 4. You can go right back to the main menu as you normally would. This actually treats all these games as though they were originally built into the console. So that is really awesome. I do love that. So that's pretty much it for Project Lunar. This is what a lot of people wanted. They just wanted the ability to add a few games into the main UI, which now we can do very successfully and very easily, especially with that scraper. It'll make things very quick. You just pick your game, load it up, pick your game, load it up. So we're done talking about Project Lunar. Emulation Station's are really cool to have on there, and there's a ton of people saying like, why would you do that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the boot menu again, and then we're going to talk about it. Okay, so we're on the boot menu, and a lot of people are asking, why would you want Emulation Station? And that is because Project Lunar is going to be dedicated to the Genesis titles, at least for now it is going to be, whereas the other option on all of our other classic consoles was RetroArch. And I don't know about you guys, but personally I'm not a huge fan of the user interface on RetroArch. I actually much prefer Emulation Station, so this just gives you a prettier version of a front-end UI that allows you to be able to play some of the other consoles on your classic system. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we are just going to jump right on into the Emulation Station so I can show you guys what that looks like. Now I've already gone ahead and preloaded a bunch of different consoles and a bunch of different games on here. And I'm not going to go through showing you guys that they all work. I'll show you guys a couple of them that they do work. But essentially what they've gone ahead and done is they've gone with a like a custom theme for the Emulation Station, which kind of gives you like a Genesis feel, which I think is totally cool, and it makes sense for the console itself. Now, of course, as with Emulation Station on a Raspberry Pi, you are able to use essentially any theme that you want. So if you have a theme that you want, you can go ahead and load that in there. And it's relatively simple to do that, but those will be tutorial videos down the road if that's something that people are interested in. But yeah, essentially that's it. So you've got your Emulation Station that allows you access to any of your other consoles that you want to play. Game Boy Color, Nintendo 64, which doesn't run very well. It's not optimized yet. So don't expect anything amazing out of the N64. Super Nintendo, Game Boy. We've got our Mega Drive here if you prefer to play it through RetroArch. And then we've got our Master System, NES, Game Boy Advance, things like that. The only big thing here is that if you loaded a game for your console to the Project Lunar UI, you're not going to have access to it here. So you're going to have to either double load the games, load it into two separate folders essentially, or you're going to have to kind of pick one or the other as to where you want those games to be situated. But that's more or less it. So this is the Emulation Station. Most of the functions will work. When you press start, you're going to get your main menu. Scraper is there. Scraper is there, and you can scrape. Now, right now it's not connected in, so that's something that's to be worked on, and I don't know if that's going to be available on first launch when this is released to the public, but it should be coming relatively soon. I know that the guys are definitely working on it. And of course, if you wanted to exit from here back into the main UI, you just go into quit, you accept it, and you just quit Emulation Station. So I'll go ahead and do that. And now we're back to our boot menu. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I just wanted to show you guys exactly what Project Lunar is. We're really close to getting to a beta stage. There's still some work that needs to be done. There's third-party controller support that's still being worked on. There's a little bit of Wi-Fi stuff that's being worked on. There's some Emulation Station stuff that's all being worked on. And the desktop app also has a few things that have to be worked on, but in general things are coming along really quickly, and I'd anticipate that we're going to start seeing some betas relatively soon, which then means we're going to have a public release soon. So definitely stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, because I'm going to be staying on top of this. I'll be probably one of the first guys that'll be putting out information about it, and I'll definitely be one of the first guys putting out tutorials showing you guys how and where to download everything that you need to get this thing up and running. If you haven't picked up an OTG adapter, definitely you might want to consider doing that now. Links will be in the description down below. But that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you guys again real soon.